Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm taking a look at a very nostalgic classic to me, the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Now I firmly believe if it wasn't for this game I probably would have stopped playing video games a long time ago. Mainly because this was the first time that I was ever truly blown away by a video games console. I've told this story a few times but I'm going to tell it again. Basically I believe it was probably in the very early 90s, it was at Christmas time. And sort of my uncle, so he was actually my stepdad's nephew, he had a Sega Mega Drive and he didn't mention it or anything like that, but he came over one Christmas, as him and his girlfriend did, to see my parents, and he brought his Sega Mega Drive with him, and this was the game that was with it. Now at the time I owned an NES and I just couldn't quite believe it. I really just couldn't believe it. The quality of the graphics and the sound was just unlike anything I'd ever seen before, and I was completely hooked. So if I was to talk about my top 10 video games of all time, the original Sonic the Hedgehog would definitely be in there, which may surprise some people. So by the time I actually got my Mega Drive, it was all about the Sonic 2. Oh no, I've not got the Chaos Crystal now. It was all about the Sonic 2, and the two-player mode in that game truly was where friendships were won and lost. Round my house on a rainy day, there was many battles on the Sonic 2. It truly was fantastic. Certainly the 3D effect ring collecting game was a firm favourite, often leading to dead heats, you know, to go into a sudden death type situation, as well as the actual race sort of modes in the split screen two-player mode. It really was, you know, a fantastic sequel to this game, but as far as memories go, this one will always be really special to me, because it literally was the first game I ever played on a Mega Drive in my own home. And to be fair, I think I played this on the Mega Drive that Christmas before I'd ever played any game on the Mega Drive. So I think the next time I seen a Mega Drive it was probably the Toe Jam and Earl Road Rash. Not that it was mine even then. Like I say, it was a few years later when I actually got my hands on a Mega Drive, and I traded my NES for the Mega Drive, which I sometimes regret, but if it wasn't for that I wouldn't be such a massive fan of the Mega Drive, and I probably wouldn't have come back to this whole retro collecting scene, I guess. So that's Act 2 out the way. If you didn't know, there's 3 acts to every level. At the end of the 3rd act you meet Dr. Robotnik primarily. In actual fact, I think that's pretty much the case in all Sonic games, certainly the ones on the Mega Drive. I believe Sonic and Knuckles may have some sort of convoluted story that contradicts that, but I can't quite remember. Really, Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 are where it was at for me. I do own the other games, and I should perhaps give them a little bit more of a chance, but they overcomplicated the formula for my liking, but I'm a man of very simple needs. Oops. I believe you can hit that and jump back up and get the extra life that's above there, but we shan't bother messing around with that. Just wonderful platform action, and truly just is one of those games that to me is timeless. The graphics here, they still look absolutely drop dead gorgeous even today. Scan lines you could shave on. It's nothing but a pleasure to play this title, it really isn't. So the invincibility, borrowed slightly from Mario Brothers, and here's the first time I meet Dr. Robotnik. And the aim really is to just try and get as many hits in as possible and not get hit by the ball. Unfortunately, eventually you run out of timing unless you backtrack on yourself, but we made an easy job of him. It does guide you in nicely, and this was always a pleasure to see. And I don't believe they carried this on in the subsequent Sonic the Hedgehog games. It may have been in 2, but I think they got rid of it eventually. But the whole idea that the enemy were actually, you know, creatures that have sort of been messed about with by Dr. Robotnik. I don't think there is actually a story to all this. Although now having the Japanese version, it's very difficult for me to remember that, and certainly there's not much mention of it during the game. I don't believe I've ever fully completed this title. May have completed Sonic 2, but I think the last level in this game is on an airship or something like that. It's very difficult. It does get tricky. But certainly, I mean, if you've never played Sonic the Hedgehog, which is unlikely, but you never know, you don't know who's watching these videos. If you never have, I would just totally advise just turning this video off and just playing it somehow, whether it's, you know, on the Xbox 360, on the PS2, the GameCube. These games are everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. I should imagine on the Virtual Console. Hell, it's probably even playable on calculators these days. But you know, definitely check this out, because to me this is, you know, one of the pioneering video games. Obviously, you know, I was a massive Mario Bros fan. Only in the NES, I had Mario Bros 1, 2 and 3. And, you know, I fully respect what they did for the gaming industry in terms of platform games. But for me, this was a breath of fresh air. Just something that I wasn't expecting. Oh dear. So that's sort of a lollipop type thing there. That sort of a checkpoint. A little bit of jumping going on. It doesn't generally, oh dear, he said, doesn't generally get too tricky until the third world. But that's probably, I should never ever say stuff like that, because I'm just a bad omen to myself. Yeah, you got to be careful. Stuff just flying out anywhere, spikes could grab you at any time. Oh, I nearly got crushed to death then. And the music, I mean, I've got to mention the music. It just really is so memorable. I believe it's just complete nostalgia overdose. I don't feel like I'm that nostalgic a person about that many video games, but if we're talking about the original Sonic the Hedgehog or Super Mario Land on the Game Boy, I've got a lot to say on the matter in terms of the amount of time I spent playing those games. And that's a thing that I think a lot of people kind of lose track of these days. You know, when it's so easy when you're a bit older and you can afford all these games, or you know, they're not very expensive nowadays, or whatever else, is you forget that when you was younger, well, certainly for the majority of people I should imagine, it certainly was true for me, when you was younger, you would get a game and you would have that game and perhaps not another game for 3 months, 6 months, a year, who knows how long you'd have to wait. But most things are certain, you certainly weren't getting 10 games through the door, through the letterbox, every, you know, day or every week, or whichever way you want to look at it. This fire effect's really nice. Unfortunately my camera's not quite up to the standards I would like. There's a lovely bit of scan lineage going on with those flames. Ooh, lastminute.com. But yeah, it mixes up the gameplay elements so well. It constantly keeps you in trouble. Got to get a ring. Oh, you know, you've got to have the wits about you. Not keep getting killed by that, but luckily I saved a squirrel, so it's not all bad. So I could do with that shield. And later Sonic games have certainly increased the amount of power-ups you can get. As I previously mentioned, Sonic 3, I sort of spoke about it being overcomplicated, I guess, but there's some really cool abilities in that game. I'm not sure if I'm going to make videos about all the Sonic games. I certainly wanted to do this one. And an interesting thing about this game is I've seen a few people recently, and it's just an ongoing subject and no one's really got to the bottom of it as far as I know, is about playing PAL games at 60 Hz and NTSC games at 50 Hz and vice versa. Let me tell you now, certainly from my experience, there is no clear uncut rule. It is nothing to do with optimization. There is all kinds of variables associated with this, and I'll tell you one thing, if you've got 50 Hz Sonic the Hedgehog and you try playing it at 60 Hz, you'll get nothing but slowdown. It's just, you know, people say, oh, certain years or whatever else, you know, any Mega Drive game will play fine at 50 Hz, etc, etc. That's just not strictly true. It's a minefield out there. But certainly Sonic the Hedgehog was one game I had to get the NTSC version of to play at 60 Hz, otherwise it was just a mess. But I'm certainly glad I did do, and I love the artwork on the Japanese Sonic games on the Mega Drive. They really are something special. There is a quote on the box. Unfortunately, I've forgot it now, but maybe I'll insert it in the form of some sort of subtitles below about now. So things are heating up in Sonic Land. There's invincibility, and that's a godsend on this part here. You want that. Yeah, whatever. Now I think you can still get crushed, even if you have got invincibility. You've got to have your wits about you, as best you can. Oops, oh my word, now things are going a bit from bad to worse. So I've got to think about this a little bit here. It's always important to keep those rings because that's your lifeline. And I'm sure most people, if they're even watching this far, already know the gameplay mechanics of Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not exactly complicated, but it is essential to try and keep those rings at all times because mistakes happen. And as you've seen, many have been made throughout this gameplay. Oops, just like that. Again, I've got to really not mention the bad gameplay all the time, because as soon as I do that in every single time I make a video, it always results in disaster. So now we're getting in deep. Now we're getting to a little bit more complicated segments. I'm once again playing on the Bang & Olufsen MX4002. This is the black version. So my newest set. Hopefully the footage isn't too bad. I realise there'll be a black line running along it. As I always seem to mention in every video I make now, it's like a broken record. When you're recording CRTs, anything can and usually will happen. It's, again, much like the 50-60 Hz debate, there is no clear-cut rule, there is no sort of mathematical equation that's going to see you right every single time. It's not down to science, or if it is, it's a science I don't understand. But I could well have played this game. I've got the Sonic's Ultimate Collection on the 360, so I could have played it on the 360, but I'm a stickler for the scan lines, and I'd just much rather play these games on the real hardware. Although if you haven't got that available to you, I thoroughly recommend checking out this game on any format you can, because it won't stop it from being a decent title. Uh-oh. They're tricky little numbers. Oh, what's happening there? I think he's pushing some sort of ghost, force push. So I do hope, as always, that this music's coming along. Well, coming across, not coming along. Because it truly is a piece of monumental Sega history. Oh, jeez. Wow. See, it's a fast game, but patience is rewarded. There is no uncertainty to that fact. So I'll just complete this level and then we'll call it a day. I do get... Oh my word. I do get a little bit lost in these Sonic the Hedgehog games, get a bit carried away, overexcited. I did stick this on the other night and oh dear, there's a bit of slowdown. Now people who overclock their Mega Drive, which is something I'd be interested in doing, although I hear it messes with compatibility on certain titles, don't suffer from that ring problem. I'm not exactly sure, I think it's 13 megahertz they can get the system to run at, and I think natively it runs at about 9, so there's a few games on the Mega Drive where you have that sort of stutter, slowdown issue. Thunder Force 4 being another famous one, which as I have mentioned in the past, that's another game with a 50-60 Hz issue. If you play the 50 Hz version at 60 Hz, because I've got a modified Mega Drive, what happens is you start to get some graphical errors that you don't get with the 60 Hz version. Now I have owned both. Now, fortunate thing with the 60 Hz version is the slowdown seems more severe, so this is the really odd case, or the rare case, where I actually prefer the game in 50 Hz. But, it's a classic shooter regardless, and I think many people probably know I actually prefer the third one. So that is completely irrelevant to this game. I can't remember where the last checkpoint was, not too far away. No rings, so could definitely do with getting them. perhaps a little bit more careful this time. And I think a lot of people mistake the Sonic the Hedgehog games as just, you know, in comparison to Mario, which, you know, I love the Mario series, but in comparison to Mario, it's just a game where you just run from one side of the screen to the next. And I think that may be true on the first level, but that's pretty much the end of it. Certainly this level, you know, requires a lot more thought. In fact, those spikes are rather annoying. So I'll try and be a bit more cautious. Come on down. Batmania. Oh, Jesus. No, he's not actually here in the room, but you know, I suppose I should have been expecting that, but still come as a surprise, so I think the rule here is just to make sure where those are coming out from, to not get caught up in no nonsense. So there's certainly a fair few bats on this level. Oh my. So here we go, I love this part. Just the general mix-up. Clearly the people who made this game, or the guy who designed this game, you know, he's a genius. It's ignorant of me not to know his real name, as I'm sure, you know, he is an important part of Sega's history. But that's the kind of person I am. I've done absolutely zero research. This not look like a good place to be. Uh-oh. Something bad happened. No one knows what. Gone to a secret land. I don't like this. I don't like what's happened. What has happened? Uh-oh. Where am I? So I think I've found some sort of strange glitch within the game, and I think that's probably where we're going to have to leave this gameplay. So yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog, one of the greatest games of all time. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll upload some more videos soon.